What's happening, everybody? Thanks for dropping by for another Crash Bang Boom podcast episode. Today's guest is drummer Sean St. Germain of Austin, Texas trio Rickshaw, Billie's Burger Patrol. We get into the killer new recent tour they went on, goofing off on stage, Canadian Rednecks, King Crimson, AC/DC, favorite towns to play in, and a big year coming in 2025. So I hope y'all dig it. Excerpt of the interview with video can also be found on the Crash Bang Boom YouTube page. Now that I'm past the 300 episode mark, feel free to check out any of the previous episodes, and if you enjoy the combos, feel free to give me a sweet review and or a subscription on your preferred podcast platform. Thanks for the support over the last 9 years. It is certainly appreciated. All right, let's dabble our toes in the warm waters of the Rickshaw boys. Crash Bang Boom.
Go mad with joy.
All right, Sean St. Germain, Rickshaw, Billie's Burger Patrol, straight out of Austin, Texas. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Oh, I'm chilling, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. This is relatively early, man. I feel like musicians aren't usually operating with a full deck at this time in the morning.
You know, I am typically a morning person, but I also it tickles the old pain a little bit. Be like, why not just do this shit in the morning? Why not? Let's see what happens.
Yeah, man. Last time I saw you was when your band came through Atlanta, played the Earl. It was a great show. How did that tour go, man? And from that, by the way, that was my first time seeing y'all live. But from what I understand, people that have seen y'all a few times, they say that the crowds keep seeming to get a little bit bigger and bigger every time y'all come back through a town.
Yeah, the whole tour was absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, I mean, we, because the Earl, like, that was the second time, like the fifth time we've played Atlanta, the second time we've played the Earl, and we sold it out, which was wild. And we had, I think there were like 7 or 8 other shows on the tour that sold out, which was fucking bonkers. It was a really fucking easy tour, like, because it was, most of the shows were just us and Lip Critic. And so everything just ran super smooth and concise, and it wasn't like long bills. It was just, 2 bands wrapped up early. Everyone's having a good time. Like it was just fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned a good time. I think when we were hanging out a little bit afterwards, after the show, and I had no shortage of adult beverages at that point. But I remember telling y'all that I like the fact that y'all brought a lot of fun in what y'all did. And I mean, I would generally think with a band that has the band names such as yourselves and songs like 1-800 Eat Shit, that there's got to be somewhat of a comedic aspect to it. But for sure, I think there, I don't know, was it conscious amongst y'all to have like such a sort of fun environment when y'all play live, kind of fun party environment?
Yes, like we in the sense of like, we're goofy people, and it's frustrating in the heavy music community, the lack of like lightheartedness, and fun that exists. Not fun in the sense of like just fun in the sense of like, why not just be a fucking dipshit? And so that was definitely something that we did with some amount of intent, and the name, lends itself to that. And we just always wanted to, the whole thing is, it's like, it's okay to like have fun on stage when you play heavy music,
right?
Like it's okay to fucking goof around and smile, like, it's not against the rules. It doesn't get you kicked out of the community, like,
right. Speaking of which, and I don't know the story about it, I'm sure you're tired of being asked the fucking question, but the name...
Well, it's a very short story, so I can tell you where it came from.
Okay.
Many, many, many moons ago, Leo sat down to kind of start writing the stuff that would become Rickshaw Billies, and he literally he finished up a song, laid down to take a nap, the name popped into his head, he wrote it down, we stuck with it.
That's hilarious, really.
And that's it. Yeah.
Amazing. How did y'all meet each other to start the band?
So the concise Cliff Notes version is basically when I moved down here after college with some homies, we moved into this this artist like living space apartment complex thing in Austin. And about a year after that, the dudes who lived upstairs from us, who we were homies with, who were also from like the New England area.
Okay.
Leo went to school with a few of them, so when he moved down to Austin, he moved in with them.
Ah.
So then we were just like, we'd run into each other at like parties around the complex and stuff, and then eventually we got to talking and realized that we grew up like 20 minutes away from each other and knew some of the same people.
Ah.
And then we started doing this cacophonous like 9-piece performance art shock punk band thing. And that was amusing for a little bit. And then it became ridiculously not. It was just 9 people
Oh.
in a shitty punk band. It's too much. So we stopped doing that. And then Leo started writing the Burger Patrol stuff. And I hit him up, and I was playing bass in the punk band. So like he put like a song or two that he had like programmed everything for up on Facebook, and I just hit him up. I was like, "Yo, let me get a piece of this. Like, let me play drums on this shit." And that was pretty much how we started it. And then we've had a few different members, but Aaron, the Aaron story is also a wild one. We met Aaron because another band that I was playing in time. This is like 2018. We had just got this band. It was like it's like a prog fusion hip hop dance band thing that I was playing percussion in. And so we got a new saxophone player at one point, and then we were in rehearsal and we just went out for drinks, and one of the roommates in my apartment had left rather suddenly, and so we were trying to fill the spot, and I was talking about it, and this kid and the new sax player was just like, well, I was talking to a guy on Facebook, like Facebook group, who's also looking to move to Austin. Like we were supposed to move together and get a place, but it didn't quite work out. So like, can I give you this guy's number? And I was like, yes, please, because rent's due in like 3 days and I want someone else in this room. And it turned out it was Aaron. So I called him up. I was like, yo, what are you looking to do? And he was like, yo, I'm trying to leave in Atlanta. I'm trying to get to Austin. Do you got a spot? And I was like, yeah, I got a spot. It's cheap as shit. It's ratchet as fuck. Like roll up. And he was like, yeah, I'll be there in 2 days. And I was like, cool, we'll see you in 2 days. And then after Aaron moved in, it just kind of like, because he's such a fucking phenomenal musician. And so we were just kind of like, we were having issues with our bass player at the time, and Aaron really wanted in. And so, we sat down and we fired our bass player, and we got Aaron in. And that's how it's been since. I think Aaron's first show with us was Halloween of 2019.
Okay.
And so it's just been the three of us since then, and now featuring, we can afford a front of house person now. So now we bring front of house with us, and that's also rad.
Right. Interesting, man. When I was watching y'all as well, I think it's interesting that your guitarist is. Wait, Aaron is the guitarist, or do I have that mixed up?
Aaron plays bass. Leo plays guitar. And
Leo's the guitarist. That's right. It's wild. He's playing an 8-string guitar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, like, because y'all have kind of this kind of punk rock stoner thing, it's rare that you see somebody playing an 8-string guitar. Usually that's going to be in the heavier, Meshuggah-esque, djenty kind of world, so to speak, or Animals as Leaders, prog, whatever sort of derivation of djent. But his sounds good. I've definitely I've seen some bands live before where there's like 2 8-string guitars and a guy playing a 6-string bass, playing the bass with his fingers. And I'm listening to it and I'm going, I can't really understand anything that I'm hearing right now.
Yeah.
It's just this low rumbling kind of mesh of notes. But with, I think, what y'all do, it does cut. It's heavy. It's got those low moments, but I like it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool and ballsy again, because not only are y'all having fun, but you got an 8-string guitar on stage.
Yeah. Well, and so Leo's thing with the 8-string is he got into it. He went many moons ago. He went do an audition with this band, and they all played 8-string guitar. So he got an 8-string guitar, and then he's just kind of not looked back.
Yeah.
Since then, and and it fits with what we do with the way he plays, like we do things sort of backwards. Like Leo's not really doing chord work; he's doing like single note work, and then Aaron's doing all the chording on the bass. And and it just fits because like with the way because they're both playing these like split signal like stereo rigs, and it works because on that 8 string like in the registers that we're playing and like if Leo were to be doing chorded work, it would get too mucked up and fuzzy.
Yeah.
So with him just doing the single note, and we just this was the one for this tour. It was as everyone was asking what we tuned to. We play in standard.
Okay. Really?
Leo drop tunes his lowest sounding string to an E instead of I think it's supposed to be an F sharp. So he just takes it down to an E.
Okay.
But other than that, and Aaron does have the one bass that's in drop A.
Okay.
But for the most part, we play in standard. Both of the guys are really, they're really, really smart with their tone, and we've been doing this long enough that it's, pretty much just dialed in at this point when it comes to, that aspect of things.
Yeah. There are a few of y'all's songs that have Weezer-like moments to my ear, and I dig that incorporation as well. Because again, with the alchemy of everyone in the band, obviously it's going to be played completely different. But some of the spirit, or some of maybe that kind of catchy melodic aspect that Weezer has, I've heard in y'all's playing. Was that just another thing that just kind of came to be?
Yeah, I mean, it was like because when we started this, it was like there was a lot of like Bass Drum of Death and Death from Above 79.
Yeah.
Like sort of like adjacently like Queens of the Stone Age, kind of like we wanted to be like it was like a heavy garage rock thing, and and I think we've stuck to that spirit pretty solidly. We've definitely gotten into, we all love heavy music. We all love Meshuggah and Pantera and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely some of that snuck in, and this most recent record is definitely very Primus inspired.
Interesting.
But with Doom Wop especially, that was like we wanted to make really melodic, like because again, Doom Wop being a play on the whole doo-wop thing, so we wanted those melodies, we wanted the choruses, and so that was Doom Wop was definitely done very intentionally to have like that kind of not to but the Weezer influence was definitely like that's one that we love to get, like because when people ask us like, oh, what do you sound like, and we're like, fuck you, like there's definitely like one of the things that we will go to is just like, oh, I don't know, it's like primacy shit with like kind of Weezer-y stuff with with,
That's wild, man. When the band was first starting out playing and just, locally in Austin, were there some scene that y'all were into? Were there any other fun bands that y'all were playing with? Or, I mean, Austin's such a great rock and roll town that I would think it would be easier than most.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. And this city, like, everyone's like, oh, Austin's changing, and it is, and it's getting weird. And there's a lot of tech now, and a lot of tech bros, and Elon's got all his shit up here, but like, but it's still, I mean, I still think it's the best music community. I won't say the world, but I think in the country. Like, it's everyone's very supportive, and so we came up. We were playing back then. We were playing at like Swan Dive and Beerland and stuff like that, Hotel Vegas, and we were playing with the homies in Greenbeard and Billy King and the Bad Bad Bad. Those were we'd do like the Billie shows because it would be like when we first started traveling. We'd go out to College Station and San Antonio and Houston, and it would be like us and Greenbeard and Billy King and like, and it's funny to think that was like. Technically, I guess not that long ago. That was like 6 or 7 years ago. But with the COVID jump, it feels a lot longer. Like,
Right. You mentioned New England earlier. Whereabouts? Where in the New England area were y'all? I guess you and the bass player originally. Or no, he was in Atlanta. Leo
and I are from Massachusetts. Yeah, I grew up in I grew up in central Massachusetts, and Leo's from the South Shore.
Okay.
Of of Boston. So, and that was, New England, love it to death. Glad I don't have to deal with the winters anymore.
Oh, yeah, fuck that. I lived in New York for 15 years, so I was south of it, but still, I was like, every winter, I was like, this is the last one, and it was 15 years of it. I was so ready to be getting out of there. But, yeah, man, Boston got some funny accents. Boy, you go up to Maine, and boy, those accents get real funny up
Maine
there.
accent is a truly special interpretation of the English language.
It really is.
God bless them.
It really
it's
is.
too early in the morning for me to attempt an impression, but it's God bless those motherfuckers. those silly rednecks.
I know. I was like, wow, this is Canadian rednecks? Is that what this is? Like Canadian Northeast Coast rednecks?
It's our rednecks all live up in Maine, and they're hilarious.
Yeah, when I was in New York, I would drive up there just on an extended weekend and go hang out in Bar Harbor and eat fucking lobster and drink wine, and hang out with the townies at the bars and shit. And I don't know, I love it up there, dude. It's not only is it's unbelievably beautiful, one of the most beautiful areas in the States, but God, yeah, I love it up there. Damn,
it's just good, It always, especially if you go in the fall and you can catch the good weather, like the leaves and everything. Like
absolutely, that was the time I'd go up there for the turning of the leaves.
Yeah,
absolutely, dude. The weather, yeah. Oh my God. When we hung out a little bit as well, you had mentioned that you had been digging into some King Crimson. When did that start?
Yeah. The Crimson thing, that would have been after we had graduated college. Like in the summer between graduation and moving down to Texas, me and the boys were living in this tiny ass apartment, and we all had, back then the Pirate Bay and everything, so everyone was like bootlegging everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had gotten our hands on this. It was like Crimson in Japan in like the early '90s because it was on the Frack tour because they were playing like
like
that, and the way that video was shot, and then just the playing with Bill Bruford and Pat Mastelotto and Adrian Belew still in the band at that point. It was just like, it's just like, what the fuck, man?
Autism. That's what. A lot of autism.
It is Autism, the band. But, but it's so good. And then like especially in that era when it was just like the way Fripp was writing, and then like Pat and Bill Bruford just like figuring out like, okay, what's like, how can we like really fuck with this and like do weird shit, or even just like on shit like frame by frame, like how about let's just run it exactly down the middle of this weirdly complicated odd meter thing, and we're just gonna play as straight as humanly possible.
Right.
And listening to that and breaking all that shit down, it's just like, it's so cool what they were doing back then. Like what they were doing forever. Everything they've done is fucking cool.
Right.
But that era especially, it's just like, it's just so good.
Yeah. I was telling you and anyone that's listening that's interested in it, one of this guitarist that I know told me that it was his favorite record, and he's been jogging to it for years. It's the Live in U.S. King Crimson. So it's the Wetton, Bruford, Fripp era trio. So like, what's that? Red, Starless Bible Black, and Lark's Tongue and Aspic. Those three records.
I believe so, yeah.
It's that lineup, 70s, and man, that shit is amazing. I've got it on vinyl, and at one point they end it. They play in the Court of the Crimson King, and I was imagining, not knowing anything about that band, and like one of your buddies says, hey, let's go check out this band called King Crimson. You walk in at a time where you have zero perspective about what someone like that does and how heavy that song is, and like a lot of just how dark and odd so much of it was. You kind of have a sense where if you transport yourself to back then, it must have been a little bit of a mind fuck to see them around that time.
Absolutely. Like that was such an era where like people could honestly make sounds that no one else had figured out how to ever make before.
Right.
Like oh my God, it must have been insanity.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what's crazy? You mentioned Adrian Belew. What's wild about Adrian Belew, I think he's probably the only guy to ever play with Frank Zappa that didn't read music. And
Yeah.
and Frank was like, all right, this guy can play all this other stuff by ear somehow miraculously, so I guess he won't have to read the music. He's gonna have to learn it all by ear, which is his own nightmare. But then also played, with Talking Heads. So it's like, damn, man, between Crimson, Zappa, Talking Heads, he's done some work with David Bowie. Like, Adrian Belew is a special, and you know what? I think he's from like Kentucky.
Yeah, he's definitely from somewhere nondescript.
I assumed, I don't know, a major city, New York or something. I don't know. I definitely did not expect Kentucky, but an amazing son of a bitch nonetheless.
Whatever was in the water, it was working.
For real, man.
Dude can fucking play.
Yeah.
I saw someone, this one cracked me up. It was this video popped up on like the Instagram stories the other day of his Tony Levin playing with Steve Gadd.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. But he's still got hair.
Uh-huh.
And it was like 72 and Tony Levin still had hair. And I was just like,
who is that guy?
That's weird. But he's just killing like that man. Good Lord.
Yeah. It's nuts. You mentioned Doom Wop, but obviously Big Dumb Rips, I believe, is the most recent full length, right?
Yeah.
Did y'all record that in Austin? Who'd y'all work with on that?
Yeah, so we did that in a town called Lockhart, which is just like 20 minutes out of Austin.
Okay.
We did it with our buddy Cody, who also did Doom Wop.
Okay.
But the difference was Doom Wop. We did it like Cody and Leo lived together, so we did Doom Wop in the house.
Okay.
Where they lived, and then this time we did. Cody had gotten the studio in Lockhart set up, so we went out and did it there, and it was really, really nice because we went out and we just stayed there for the week.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it was really like we kept the drums set up the whole time.
Yep.
Which was awesome. And Lockhart's a really cool town. So it was just a really nice vibe. It was just a good environment.
Yeah.
To be doing stuff in, and every session is stressful in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you do those sessions where it's like you get the drums done and then you break the drums down and then you're listening to the mixes after like the guitars or the vocals are on and you're like, I wish I had done something differently on this song, and I'm going to have to pretend to not feel that way for the rest of my existence.
Yeah.
This was just like, because Cody and I both wake up pretty early, so I was like, if something was bugging me, I'd be like, yo, can we pull this file up and we'd listen to it? And I'd be like, yo, can I go try, something else instead? And he'd be like, yeah, get in there. And then we'd come back, and Cody's a rhythm section player also.
Mm.
So I'd like come out of the room and he'd be like, that's the right idea. Do it better though.
Okay.
And so it was cool to have that, like, that ability to go and like mess with some stuff and rework some ideas. And like, we did that with 1-800 Eat Shit. Cause I was trying to do this, like, I was basically trying to do like the John Bonham, like the rock and roll thing where like everything's just going at once for the whole song. And I was fine with it, and I got some good takes with it. But then we put the bass on it, and we put the guitar on it, and I kept like listening to it, and I was like, this is entirely too much. And so I nabbed Cody, and I was like, yo, let me just do the fucking Phil Rudd shit, and let me throw it down on this real quick.
Yep.
And then I did it, and then he just comes over to God Mike, and he's like, yeah, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
So it was cool to have like some freedom like that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is funny. I mean, when we all refer to it as such, playing real straight within rock, you're Phil Rudding it. That's just the way it goes. And I mean, good God, it's like, AC/DC had a formula that was evident on the first record, and still to this day, it's still there. And part of that is that straight playing. But Phil Rudd did have feel with it. It wasn't like overly mechanized and overly straight. It was like he really did have feel.
No, that's the thing. He sits like ever so slightly behind, and it's like, and it flows. It's just a river.
Yeah.
Just with all the technical stuff, and it's all the prog phases and metal phases, and listening to whatever. I mean, I still think, to me personally, the best feeling in the world is just when it's like, you know, it's almost any AC/DC song does it, so you don't even really need to name one. But when it's like there's the big chords that open it, and then there's just like they'll wait for a couple beats, and then there's just that big slam, and then it's
Uh-huh.
just right in, and I'm just like every single time I'm just like, oh, like that. It's just that's the fucking tops for me. It's like the best thing.
Absolutely. When y'all think about, I guess, touring in the States, are there any particular towns that y'all really seem to enjoy playing? I mean, Atlanta seems to really enjoy y'all there.
Yeah, Atlanta's a blast. I think I you know that's and we have such an interesting history with Atlanta because like the first time we played it was at the small room at the Masquerade,
Uh huh.
and then the second time we played it was Shaky Knees,
Okay.
and then we did the small room at the Masquerade again,
Mm,
and then we did the Earl,
right.
and so it was like because I could never when I was doing the booking myself way back, I could never get us into Atlanta,
Uh huh.
and so we'd either go through on support or we did the Shaky Knees thing, and now since we have the booking agent, he gets us the Earl, and it's what a great room that is.
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
it's just such an awesome club. But yeah, Atlanta's great. You know, Boston's always nice because it's always good to go home and see the family and all of that. Um, um, I personally I love Chicago,
Okay.
like Detroit and Chicago. Like those are the days when we're doing the East Coast. Like those are the 2 days where I'm just like, even if I'm tired or if I'm shot to shit, like Detroit is always a good time, and then Chicago's just the best.
Damn.
So that's always fun. Fucking San Francisco. I could never live there, but like
Yeah.
like one day in San Francisco, and it's just oh, I love it because we play the spot we play is over in the Mission District there, so there's a ton of shit, and the club is great. And, like that's a good city. I like it. Charlotte, North Carolina is always fun. I'm sure there's plenty of other cities. Not Florida. We don't like Florida. Um, we're
Okay.
not we're not huge Florida fans.
Okay. That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, well, and this time, we just did Milwaukee for the first time on this tour, and that was great. And that was one of those setups where like the club, it's like there's the club, and then they have an apartment upstairs that the band can crash in.
Awesome.
I think I just like the Upper Midwest. I think it's
Okay.
I think I just generally enjoy being in the Upper Midwest. Like,
Oh my God. Have y'all been to Europe or abroad yet, or just all just
well,
states?
so
Huh?
we did Canada for the first time, so we are now officially international.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
and then we'll do Europe in May, mid-May into June.
Gotcha.
We'll be over there for like a month, and we've got like 5 or 6 festivals lined up and a bunch of club dates, and it's gonna be pretty fucking intense.
I think y'all are gonna have a great time.
That is what everyone is saying, and I am tempted to agree with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun time.
Nice. What how old were you when you first started playing drums then? You mentioned kind of like it sounded like you're a little bit of a multi-instrumentalist. What did you
Yeah, yeah. I would have started. Well, it was 2002, so I was 11,
Okay.
and yeah, and I started up because I was going into 6th grade, and the school they made you pick. You either had to do like choir or general music or band. You had to pick one, and I didn't want to do choir, and I didn't want to do another class, and it seemed like playing bass drum in the concert band would be very easy
Yeah.
and not and low pressure and non-committal. And so I started doing that, but then like my parents got me lessons, and probably around high school, like early high school, that I got super into like, okay, I'm gonna fucking play the drums because that's when like everyone's starting bands.
Yep.
There weren't a lot of drummers in town, so it's like everyone was starting bands, and I was playing in most of them because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
and I had my buddy Dave, who we used to like all the like 2-3 times a week after school. We'd walk down to his grandma's place because they had the amps and the drums up on the top floor, and we jam fucking all day long after school and we did that all of high school, and and I went to college for it a little bit, and learn classical, like learn marimbas and how to properly play timpani drums, because in high school I was not doing it properly.
Right.
And yeah, and then I moved down here, and it's just been rock and roll the whole time. But I miss the marimba sometimes. I spent a lot of time practicing that instrument, and I have not touched one in a very long time.
Right, right.
That's a fun instrument.
Around the time when you were first playing in those bands around high school, what were some of your influences at the time? Because as I always joke about it, it's when, especially if you unearth any of those recordings from that time, it's like, holy shit. Because I was playing in the 90s, and it's just like, your influences are directly there at all times.
In early high school, it would have been a lot of the Zeppelin and the AC/DC and like all the classic rock stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that was because that was all my middle school. That's what I listened to all the time in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
But also like not the cool classic rock stuff yet. Like I don't think I'd gotten into like Mitch Mitchell and Ian Paice yet. I think that was more like later in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere in there I started the early '90s alt rock phase that every drummer must pass through, where you listen to a lot of Rage Against the Machine and a lot of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then it's when you're first getting into grunge, so you're listening to Alice in Chains and fucking Pearl Jam and Nirvana and all that. And that when I try to think back to it, I can generally remember it by like being in the basement and like what records was I like trying to learn and play along to and stuff. And so it was definitely the first one was learning every AC/DC song.
Okay.
And then I definitely went through and did like all the Chili Pepper stuff and all the Rage Against the Machine stuff. And I still like, I've been trying to like overcome it for like over a decade. But I do the Chad Smith leg thing where your like left leg is just always moving all the time.
Oh yeah, keeping time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like it, and I don't want to do it, but the amount of like mental energy it takes me to stop myself from doing it distracts me from while I'm playing.
Right. That's funny.
And I think, but that was just such a phenomenal era for musicianship in general, but definitely there are so many cool things happening with the drums and with tone and sound and everything. And and I had a hair metal phase.
Okay, of course.
I remember one year, I think it was like early in high school, I got a cowbell and a second crash cymbal so that I could learn all of Appetite for Destruction.
Oh, there you go.
That was a big one too, because those are just really good rock and roll songs, most of them.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah.
And Steve Adler played so well on that. Like
very Phil Rudd-esque.
Yeah.
Just with a cowbell.
Just with a cowbell, dude. There's so much cowbell on that record. I fucking love it.
Yeah. So, in talking to you about all this music and, all of your influences and everything, it sounds like you still catch up with your parents when y'all go back to the New England area, et cetera. Like, what do they make of you playing music and all this? What do they make of it?
I'm very fortunate to have very supportive parents. But they're old timers. I got old parents. It's taken them a little while, I think, but they always like going through school. They were always very supportive of before I had a license, my mom would drive me to rehearsals, and if it was somewhere I couldn't walk, and they'd always come out to the school concerts and stuff like that. And then it got a little weird because I went to college and I ended up graduating with a degree in English and secondary education.
Okay.
And so I was going to do that. And so they got a little weirded out when I told them that, when I sat them down, I was like, hey, how we just did this whole degree thing. Well, I'm going to go move to Texas and play music. And that was definitely a bit of an interesting conversation, but they were very supportive of it. And now I think it's just, because they won't come out to see us play because it's too loud. but they'll come out and like, so like when we played in Medford this last time, they came out to the club that we were playing at, and we got a chance to like catch up real quick before doors opened and stuff like that.
Okay.
This is such a weird life anyway, but my at the end of like I'm fortunate. My parents just like that if it's me and my sister both like if we're just as long as we're happy,
Uh-huh.
keeping our heads above and not falling too heavily to the genetic curses that we've been gifted with through generations of Mick Irish alcoholism and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I definitely got lucky with that, with having a really supportive family, and it is nice because now I can say things like, we sold out all these shows, or we're making this money, or
Mhm.
just kind of like tangible things that translate beyond like the stuff that we feel as musicians, but it's hard to communicate to people who aren't musicians, like the worth that we get out of this and the fulfillment. So
Mhm.
we can put tangible things now, like when we started getting play on radio and when we started getting festivals and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, these are things that I can tell the family, and it will make sense, and they will know that I'm doing all right and that the
Yeah.
band is going well. Lucked out on that end, I think.
Right. Absolutely. Nice. Well, man, Sean, it was fun talking to you, dudes. Great to catch up again and talk about the records and touring and upcoming stuff that y'all got going on. And like I said, I think y'all are doing a great thing. It's so much fun live, and I think that's super infectious. So I think y'all are on the right track.
It seems like it. It really seems like it. It's like, we've been fortunate. We've busted our asses, but there's a little bit of luck involved in everything, and so we've just like since 2017, we've been on the up, and so every year has kind of been a good year, and this year I think is going to be a really we're going to be busy, but I think this year is going to be a big one for us.
All right, man. Well, best of luck. Thanks for hanging. We'll catch up soon, dude.
Oh yeah, man. Good job with you, man. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, man. All righty then. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Sean for catching up. Hope y'all enjoyed some drum geekery with a little bit of humor mixed in with it. I know I certainly do. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.